Well, the Young Turks, we got a great packed show ahead for you guys. We've got more on Rand Paul and his crazy theories. We've got Republicans backpedaling, trying to get away from him. We got a Republican in a sex scandal. Shocking. But you know what? There's a twist. This time, it's a woman. No, I don't mean that it's a Republican guy who slept with a woman for a change. No, it's a Republican woman that might have slept with a guy. Oh, as the Republicans turn. Okay, and turn in bed, apparently. That is coming up in a little bit for you guys. Goofiness from Republicans running all over the country. Is Obama being way too weak, according to some Democrats, on BP? And then I'm going to break down all of the loopholes in the financial reform bill. Okay, oh, what a joke that's become. All right. Now, we have a couple of surprises for you in our first video clip. I was on Dylan Radigan's program on MSNBC today, and there were some announcements in there, as well as the topics that we covered. Interesting. All right, so we're going to share that clip with you guys, and you'll see some of those surprises. Let's watch.
We start, though, with the federal government spending and the struggle to control it. Today, President Obama proposing legislation that will allow him to cut the fat from spending laws passed by Congress. Sounds good, right? Under the plan, he'd send a package of proposed cuts back to Congress for a vote. Lawmakers will be required to consider the package as a whole. The plan is viewed as an alternative to the line item veto, which the Supreme Court ruled is unconstitutional in 1998. Why is the president doing this? Well, because we're spending money we don't have by the trillion, largely to bail out financial institutions, although some of it is also spent on entitlements, war, and research. The federal budget deficit expected to eclipse $1.5 trillion this year. The states not doing any better. Right now, 32 of the 50 borrowing from the Federal Reserve in order to make the unemployment payments that they are promising to those in their state, and they have borrowed nearly $38 billion, with California, the biggest, racking up a hefty $7 billion tab all by itself. Michigan and New York not far behind. Meantime, a third of our school administrators say they may cut summer school programs next year. That rate nearly doubling each year since 2008. Now, here to mix it up is our panel, the host of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, and associate editor for the Washington Examiner, J.P. Fair. Pleasure to see you both. Cenk, I'll start with you. You wrote a piece today in the Huffington Post saying you're basically going to go back to get the Goldman Sachs money back. I felt like it was an appropriate day for that conversation for this very reason. Are we ahead of ourselves talking cutbacks when the American people have not been given the appropriate clawbacks?
I think that's exactly right. I have mixed feelings about the Obama package because, on the one hand, I would love to cut some of those earmarks. On the other hand, it gives the president a lot of power to pick who he likes and doesn't like and what politicians he's going to do favors for and not do favors for. And if you don't like the idea of Obama doing that, wait till you get a load of a president like Bush or his advisor Karl Rove picking favorites among the earmarks. Now, what I think we should really do is go get our $13 billion back from Goldman Sachs. They got paid through AIG as a counterparty on a side bet. I don't know why in the world we paid him on that. I'd like to ask Tim Geithner, and we're going to do that. On June 7th, we're going to go down to the Treasury Department and do a protest and ask Tim Geithner, why don't you get our money back from Goldman Sachs? They said they didn't even need it. Great, fantastic, then give it back.
JP, clawbacks before cutbacks, and what do you think about the president's plan?
I think the president is unserious when it comes to cutting spending, and the other panelists and I completely agree. This is absolutely absurd that this much taxpayer dollars is going towards private institutions that got themselves into this mess, and that when it comes down to it, the president and Congress have not been serious about cutting spending. They've been doing things like anytime that they go up against PAYGO, they run right past it. In fact, this Congress alone has done $200 billion of spending, despite what PAYGO has said. So it's clear that when they set up these rules so that they can take care of spending, they're just doing this as sort of as lip service to the whole idea.
Yeah, I think all three of us are in wholehearted agreement. We'll move on. The author, and if you want to do something about it, join Cenk at the Treasury on June 7th to make your point. To Arizona we go. The immigration law, obviously, you're familiar with the issue. Well, the law apparently wants to go one step further. State Senator Russell Pierce now saying that he wants to pass a measure that would refuse to accept or issue a birth certificate to a child born to illegal immigrants. Pierce blasting what he called the, quote, anchor baby racket. Meantime, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer using a Kermit the Frog look-alike to criticize the Obama administration and officials who actually hadn't read the current immigration law. Here's a sample.
Reading helps you know what you're talking about. Let's see what these folks have to say about reading.
Have you read the Arizona law?
I have not had a chance.
I feel like I would have liked to have made that particular commercial. This new tourism ad from Mexico sparking more debate today. The ad says, in Sonora, we are looking for people from Arizona, prompting calls for a travel boycott, from controversial Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Cenk, where is this going, and is this are we just sort of churning ourselves into a froth in Arizona as a way to avoid dealing with this the way we should, like grown-ups on a national level?
Yeah, I'll tell you where this is going. This is going for an enormous favor to Barack Obama. The reason I say that is because the Republican Party are his best friends in being the worst possible enemies. They're just handing him the entire Latino vote, making it so much easier for him to win in 2012. I mean, that talk about anchor babies is ridiculous. When they came over from on the Mayflower, they were all anchor babies. Should we kick everybody out? No, it's absurd. And the idea of, oh, they didn't read the law. It's what the Republicans always do. They claim, oh, you didn't read a 1,000 or 2,000 page healthcare bill. They never tell you what's actually in the law, because what's in the law is indefensible.
JP, thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting that you bring up how the anchor baby racket is a bad thing. Look, I mean, the whole idea of having immigration laws is to be able to look at who you want to come in and who you don't want to come in and how they're going to go about it so that it's even for everybody to be able to enter the country. You want to make sure that everybody has as equal an opportunity to enter the country. And so it doesn't matter whether you're a Mexican. It also matters, you know, if you're Polish or you're coming from somewhere else. And making it so that people can come into this country on an equal basis is the most important thing. Now, the Arizona law, you know, say what you will about it, it has actually been effective in this one thing. People are now talking about immigration, and people are stepping up the idea of border enforcement more than ever before, and that's been a big problem. And, you know, if the federal government had been doing its job and had actually been dealing with the immigration issue long before Arizona ever took up this legislation, we wouldn't be talking about what state legislators in Arizona are doing.
I agree with you. Listen, a pleasure to get the conversation, gentlemen. Cenk, we want to do a quick deal here real quick? Want to see, JP,
yeah,
you want to see how big-time media deals are done? No agents or nothing. Cenk, can I fill in on your show Thursday night?
Absolutely. Thursday night, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on theyoungturks.com and on XM in Series. Dylan Radigan hosting the Young Turks. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm going to charge you a total fee of $0 for that, okay?
Oh, I like that even better.
Big time media right there, JP. That could be you in the future. No, in all seriousness, Cenk has been gracious enough to offer me the opportunity to host the Young Turks Thursday night. I'm thrilled for it, Cenk. We'll see you sooner rather than later, and I'll see all of you Thursday evening live streaming on the web with the Young Turks. JP, Cenk, a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
All right. How you like them apples? All right. Surprise number one, the most important one. I was on there not with Matt Lewis. A lot of crazy things happening today. All right. Yes, Dylan Radigan will be hosting the Young Turks on Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. It's going to be fantastic. Eastern, of course. And he's going to be in studio. He's going to be sitting right here. I will be away, and he's going to come in, and we'll get some great guests for him and TYT style with Radigan. So that should be fantastic. All right. Now, interesting story number 3, I guess, coming out of that. Look, we're ready. We're coming for it. We're coming. June 7th, Monday at noon in Washington, D.C. We're going to go to the Treasury Department, and we're going to start a protest to get our money back from Goldman Sachs. Now, why the Treasury Department? Because they're the ones that gave a $13 billion backdoor bailout to Goldman Sachs through AIG. Now, they paid them on side bets. That's exactly what these are. And it was not to protect the economy. It didn't go towards a single house or a mortgage or even a package of mortgages. It went to paying off Goldman Sachs for a bet they made against the chumps at AIG. And if they were such sophisticated investors, Goldman should have known that AIG might go under and they might not get paid. Now, they say they did know and that they had hedged even against AIG. And they said they are, quote, properly hedged and that they didn't need the American taxpayer money. they use that as if that's supposed to convince us. When I hear that, I think, fantastic. Well, then if you didn't need our money, we'll take it back. Okay, $12.9 billion went to Goldman Sachs, and there's no reason in the world that we should have paid him off on that. It's like Donald Trump and Steve Wynn made a bet. Trump won, and he says, all right, Steve doesn't have the money. Here, you American taxpayers, you give it to me, even though I don't really need it. Why would we do that? Of course, the guy responsible for that decision was largely Tim Geithner, with the help of Hank Paulson, Treasury Secretary at the time, former CEO of Goldman Sachs, who made $700 million doing these kind of deals at Goldman Sachs. You think that might be a conflict of interest? So, look, we're going to do a very fun, interesting protest, and we've got a petition up as well with Progressive Change Campaign Committee. We'll put a link up for that as well. Sign the petition if you can't make it to D.C. I'd love to have the whole country sign that petition. Because who? Liberals, conservatives, Tea Party guys, anybody, libertarians, who would be in favor of giving that money to Goldman Sachs? Only a handful of politicians and a couple of guys on Wall Street. The rest of us want our money back. Lebowski. So sign the petition, and if you can make it to D.C. noon on June 7th, let's go get them. Let's have a fun protest, bring some signs, do some chants, keep it light, tight, and bright, and have some fun. Do it TYT style. But most of all, start the process. Because people always tell me, hey, you know what? I know you don't like the way financial reform is going. What are we going to do? Well, here's step one. Let's go get regulators. Mount up. Let's go get some money back, okay? They said they don't need it. That's great. We'll take it. We'll take it off your hands. Start asking the Treasury Department to get it back from Goldman, and then we'll go to Goldman eventually, and we'll ask them. And we're just getting warmed up here. We're going to keep, people think, oh, yeah, you do one protest, it's gone. No, we're going to keep coming at these guys. We're coming to their house. All right, TYT Army, let's see what we got, okay? So that's June 7th in D.C. if you can make it. All right, now, speaking of financial reform, hey, how'd that go, man? You know, at the end of last week, we had financial reform. And, of course, as usual, the Obama team let out a little, and mission accomplished, the whole thing. I started saying that about healthcare reform. Now everybody's writing about it in terms of financial reform as well. And saw a story out there saying, hey, you know what? Obama's going to go campaign saying that he did this wonderful financial reform and everything's fixed now. That's a disastrous idea because nothing is fixed. Now let me give you the specifics. Why do I have significant trouble with this bill? Point number one, here is the New York Times writing an article about how Wall Street's reacting to it. One veteran investment banker said, quote, if you talk to anyone privately, there's a sigh of relief. In other words, the bill didn't do nothing. Okay? They thought, whew, we thought they might do actually something. No, they didn't do a damn thing. He says, at most, it will cut into their profits 15 to 20%, but there's no breakup of any institution or any onerous new taxes. Another investment banker says, nah, at most it'll cut into profits by about 4%, but we'll get to keep doing business exactly as it is. Now, look, I don't want to cut in their profits. It's not about, oh, they're making too much profit. It's about, did you fix the system? And here they're saying, oh, thank God they didn't actually fix the system. So, that might cost me a little bit here and there, but I'm going to keep doing the same highway robbery I was before. A guy who used to work in the Clinton Treasury Department, Roger Altman, who's now chairman of Evercore Partners, says the healthcare bill, get a load of this quote, the healthcare bill is going to transform the structure of healthcare exponentially more than this legislation on financial regulation is going to change Wall Street. It's not even close, he says. So if you thought healthcare reform was weak sauce, wait till you get a load of how weak financial reform is. They're laughing at us. Wall Street's laughing. This is what you got. Obama, change. Pocket change. Easy pushover. Let me give you specifics on what's wrong with the bill. Here's quoting the New York Times. The Senate rejected rules that would have broken up huge banks considered too big to fail, or impose limits on their size. Caps on how much banks can charge credit card holders to borrow also fell by the wayside. And the long-established wall between trading and commercial banking, which was torn down in 1999, will not be going back up. Okay? 0 for 4. Nicely done. Another reason for relief, several bankers said, is that neither the Senate version of the bill nor the one passed by the House in December includes the more populist provisions that have gained foothold in Europe, like a tax on financial transactions or individual bonuses. So we leave the structure exactly as it is. We didn't break up too big to fail, et cetera, as I explained to you. And we didn't even say, hey, you know what, financial transaction tax or a bonus tax that Europe is doing that is eminently reasonable because they're making all that money, their salaries, their bonuses, the profits of the banks because of the easy credit we're giving them and the backdoor bailouts we're giving them, let alone the actual flat-out money we gave them. They're taking our money and running with it, and we're not doing a damn thing about it. And then New York Times said, as I have said over and over, the one thing that's, there are two things that are good in the bill. One is on the ratings agencies. The Senator Franken passed that amendment. That's solid. The second is, hey, Lincoln's amendment on derivatives, right? Don't get too excited about that because derivatives are very, very important, and they would have to split them from the banks, except they still have to do the Senate and the House version. And the New York Times says in that conference committee, that provision is, quote, likely to be shelved or watered down. You think they're going to actually do a tough provision? I don't think so. Another banker said this legislation is not going to kill business. Even if their profit margins are reduced, the derivatives business will compare favorably to more traditional banking activities like commercial lending. You understand the downside of that? He said, look, we're not going to lend any more money, and new numbers are in on that. They stopped lending completely. They're like, no, we're going to do the profitable stuff, which is the derivatives trading. So we're going to suck up all that taxpayer money and easy credit, and we're not going to lend it out to small businesses or large businesses. We're going to use it to gamble more because you didn't stop us. Change you can believe in. All right, worse details. It is riddled with loopholes. Here come the loopholes. This is now quoting the Associated Press. The bill exempts companies that use derivatives to reduce the risk of fluctuations in interest rates and commodity prices. So they say, oh, you know, we need the exemptions for just those specific areas. But as they explain, experts say this exception could be exploited. Really? You think the companies might exploit those exceptions? Companies could, for example, find ways to combine traditional business activities with purely financial investment through the use of derivatives. Giant loophole number one. Now, on top of the fact that they didn't even actually fix anything, there's still these giant loopholes in there. Now, loophole number two, smaller banks could still choose their own regulator. These banks would likely seek out the most lenient oversight. Boy, we did sweeping financial reform. The smaller banks can choose their own regulator. Oh, I'd like to have Bob. Bob seems a nice guy. I think he's going to take it easy on me. Oh, wow, we got really tough on him. Key advocates for that loophole were the Independent Community Bankers of America and the American Bankers Association. Big surprise. How about loophole number three? The Senate voted against capping how much banks can bet relative to their reserves. It left that up to same regulators who failed to properly monitor banks' risk-taking before the crisis. So there is no cap on how much they can bet relative to the money that they have. So what the hell did we do in this reform? Okay, loophole number four. The Senate bill lets regulators decide whether to protect the creditors of the failed banks. The bill does little to prevent the big banks from getting bigger, meaning taxpayers might have to intervene again. A Democratic amendment to limit the size of the banks was rejected amid opposition from the banks such as Goldman Sachs. So no limit on the size, and we're told, hey, trust the regulators. If it turns out there's a problem, they'll break up the big banks, even though that's exactly what they didn't do last time. And there's no reason to believe they'll do it this time. Loophole number five. The Consumer Watchdog's authority would be confined to the firms with at least $10 billion in assets. Thousands of community banks wouldn't be supervised by the consumer agency at all, nor would many non-banks, where a lot of this fishy transactions happen. The Chamber of Commerce has led the push to limit the reach of the consumer agency. The payday lending industry and the National Automobile Dealers Association have joined the effort. Enjoy that gigantic loophole where the pay lenders can still charge you up to 600% interest. That was called loan sharking in the past. Did that get addressed in the bill? Nope. This bill is a J-O-K-E. Joke. All right, last loopholes for you guys. Now, Cantwell had an amendment to say, hey, you know what? We're saying that we're going to put all the derivatives on a market, so at least there's transparency. That's supposed to be one of the golden things about this bill. Aha! Reform! But she read the fine print, and it said, if you don't do it, well, there's absolutely no penalty. So she wanted to introduce an amendment saying, well, if you break that law, there should be a penalty. Nope, got spiked. They killed it. So even if you don't put it on the market, there will be no penalty. And guess who gets to decide whether they put that on the markets entirely, and who the clearing houses are going to be? I'm sure you're going to be shocked to find out that, yes, the banks will run their own clearing houses that get to decide what goes on the open market and what doesn't. And then there's a final little one that says that the banking committee dropped the term trading facility, which then led to another loophole letting them exempt even more derivatives trading from open view. In the end, you're going to have almost no open view on the derivatives trading, and even if you did and they didn't put it on there, there's no penalty. This bill is horrible, horrible. That's why Wall Street is celebrating today, saying, oh, and most of the major banks on Friday, they went up 5%, their stock market value. They're like, this is what Obama had to offer? Wow. This is a change Wall Street can believe in. Look, what's going to happen here, I've made this prediction before. I'll do it again here if you like. This is going to lead to a worldwide economic collapse. We have done nothing to fix it. And they think that they're being cute. They're playing politics. Oh, we'll say we fixed it, and the media will cover it, and every story. Now, look, the AP story is great. The New York Times story is great. But and the Newsweek story, Michael Hirsch, great. They're the ones that explain the loopholes. But even some of them lead with, and every other story leads with, sweeping financial reform, as if the job got done. There's nothing sweeping about this. So in the end, they will take too many risks. They will bet too much money without enough capital to make more profit in the short term, and they will crash. And when those banks crash, they're going to take everyone down with them, including possibly the United States government, because we don't have enough money. We already put an extra $1 trillion in the Fed. We've already put in close to $200 billion in the AIG and Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. We don't have money anymore. Well, for when the next crash happens, there is no more bailouts because we ran out of money. The problem is when there's no more bailouts and the next crash happens, it's an absolute financial debacle. And I think it's going to affect the whole world. And then they'll look back and go, oh, yeah, it turns out that financial reform didn't get the job done. And they'll say no one could have seen it coming, except for all the people here that see it coming. Young Turks. Back on the Young Turks. All right, before I go on to BP and Rand and the Republican sex scandal, I have two more finance stories for you, but I need you to be very, very ready because you might vomit in your mouth over the next one like I did. John Heilemann of New York Magazine got some reporting on the Obama White House and what's going on there. And he's reporting that Obama and Geithner, according to David Axelrod, have a man crush on each other. Okay, sorry. He explains that Geithner quickly became Obama's confidant through a combination of his moderate political leanings and a hesitancy to enforce sweeping, broad changes to the financial system. Peas in a pod. Peas in a pod. Here is a quote from Heilemann's piece. Whatever the effects of the bill, among them will be, this is the financial reform bill, among them will be neither an end to the too big to fail doctrine, nor any curb on what the sharpest Wall Streeters see as the central threat to the system's stability, excessive financial leverage. That's exactly right. Geithner, Summers, and Obama had little interest in tackling those matters, not because they're indentured servants to Wall Street, but because at heart they are all technocrats who believe the system doesn't need to be rebooted or downsized, merely better supervised. This is exactly what we've been telling you. They think, no, the structure is fine. We just had a little blip, and we'll just manage it better than Bush did, and everything will be just fine. No, the problem is excessive leverage. They took the brakes off in 2004 and let them lever as much as they wanted. In 1999, when they passed the bill on derivatives, they let them go off book, which means that you don't even have to report how much you're leveraged. No, you're misunderstanding the problem. This isn't something you can tweak. And if Obama thinks Geithner's the genius who's got this thing figured out and he's got a man crush on him because he's hesitant to do a real reform of Wall Street, we're all screwed. That means, one, Obama doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and two, look, it's a problem of his nature. He doesn't, I mean, that was the central lie of his campaign. He doesn't want to do real change. Under no circumstances does Obama want to do real change. He wants to do a little tiny change. Geithner loves to sprinkle in a tiny bit of change and say, hey, did we fix it? And Obama's like, oh, I love you, man. Oh, I love that kind of incremental change. Oh, I got such a man crush on you. Rahm Emanuel's the same way. He's chief of staff. They're the kings of pocket change. So he loves Rahm Emanuel. He loves Tim Geithner. We're all hosed. Now, meanwhile, Jonathan Alter, for a book he wrote about Obama, has very similar stories confirming exactly what we've been telling you. Larry Summers is a bully. He doesn't say this, but as you read it, it seems the analogy jumps out at you. He's like the Don Rumsfeld of the Obama administration. If anyone dares disagree, he yells at them, shouts them down, belittles them, and in fact, literally excludes them from the meetings. One of the guys that got excluded from the meetings was Paul Volcker, the only guy giving Obama the right advice. Now get a load of this, man. Paul Volcker, back in the day, was thought to be like a ruthless Reaganite. Man, he was so right-wing. Now he's become the populist. He's the most left-wing. They don't even let him in the room. So finally, after Obama realized, oh, you know what? It's funny how Volcker kept getting excluded from all the meetings by Geithner, Summers, and Emanuel. He listened to him, and then finally they decided to go with the Volcker rule, but it turns out, of course, they were joking. They didn't actually push for the Volcker rule, and it's not actually in the bill. The Volcker rule would have separated out their own trading, that they can take any damn bet that they'd like to do with money that's backed up by the American taxpayers. Now that will not be separated, so our money's on the line because Geithner and Summers won. These are the financial neocons of this administration. And the one final thing that is very disturbing is, as someone else told me, and now confirmed by this account too, it appears that Obama simply does not understand the details. Our assumption has always been Obama's really bright, Obama's really smart, so he must know what's going on. No, look, you can be really smart at some things and not so bright at other things. I couldn't do physics if my life depended on it. If you just saw me in the context of physics, you said that is one of the dumbest guys in the country. Okay, so Obama could be great with politics and history, et cetera, and just not get financial reform. In the meetings, apparently, when they finally brought in the opposition, they brought in Stiglitz and Krugman, et cetera, to get a different opinion in the room. By the way, you get a load of how that worked too. It's so Machiavellian. It's so neocon. First of all, they brought in some liberals to actually make a case for what we should do, but in order to balance them out, they brought in conservatives so that Obama will hear both sides and get confused and not know what to do, okay? And then they weren't even going to bring in Stiglitz, the guy who had the right idea from the beginning. In the morning, they were like, it'll look bad if we don't. Okay, invite him in the morning, hope he can't show up to Washington in time from New York. That's how these guys operate. And once inside the room, here's a quote: Obama grew slightly impatient when the conversation grew too technical or backward looking. In other words, he didn't get the technical stuff. And he's like, what do you want me to do? Okay, I don't get this stuff. And backward looking is, you want me to fix it. No, don't worry about what happened in the past. Just tell me what I should do now, right? And so if you simplify it like that, Krugman and Stiglitz said what Volcker said, which is, hey, you know what? These banks are all bankrupt. You need to, if you're going to put money into it, you should make sure the taxpayer gets paid back. So you need to take over the banks. I mean, that of course does damage in the short run, but it prevents much bigger damage in the long run. Obama's like, damage in the short run. I don't like that. I'm a politician. I don't get all this mumbo jumbo stuff you're telling me. And no. I'm going to go with Geithner and Summers. They're very soothing. They say everything's going to be all right, that it's a temporary blip. No, you guys you're free to go. Get out. They told Volcker so late he showed up for dessert. Too late. Look, I'm not calling Obama stupid. I think that's a crazy thing to say. Like I said, you can have a blind spot. Michael Hirsch came on the show here from Newsweek, said the same thing. He's got a blind spot for finance. He doesn't get it. Boy, could there be a worse topic not to get in the midst of this storm. We're in a lot of trouble. We really are. I wish we weren't, but we are. All right, now, speaking of Obama's nature and how he's too soft, here he is again on BP and the oil spill. First of all, British Petroleum is stonewalling the EPA, not telling them what dispersants they're using. Sorry, apparently my blind spot is pronouncing dispersant. Okay, so they're saying, oh, oil, we're going to break up the oil, right? So they're putting in toxic dispersants to break up the oil. The EPA is saying, wait, but what are you putting in there? That might be worse than the oil itself. They won't tell them. What is this? What, we're having a conversation? What is this? If I was the president, I'd be like, no. I'm not going to ask you again. You don't get to redact things. No, tell us what the hell you're putting in the water. It's our water. Oh, come on, man. What the hell is this? Okay, then Robert Gibbs is defending the White House on the oil spill response. But look at the Democrats attacking, okay? All from Louisiana, by the way, because they see it. James Carville said, I think they actually believe that BP has some kind of good motivation here. They're naive. Here's Cokie Roberts. The oil is gushing, and we're being lied to by how much oil is gushing. And the administration has now named a commission. Now is what you do. Now, this is what you do when you really don't have anything else to do. You name a commission. That's not going to stop the oil. And Donna Brazil says, one of the problems I have with the Obama administration is they're not tough enough. Exactly right. Somebody's got to step in and go, hey, BP, step aside, Butch. I got it from here. I'm going to bring a couple of my homeboys with a couple of lead pipes and a blowtorch and go to work on these homes, okay? But Obama can't do it. It's not in his nature. BP, are you okay? Is it? Oh, no, you lied to us. You said it was 5,000 barrels spilling every day, and then it turns out it's 70,000. Now people think it might be 120,000 barrels of oil spilling in every day, and you won't give us the videotape so we can determine on our own? Why are we having this conversation? If we had a strong president, they talk about Gibbs. What a joke. Talking about how they have their boot on the neck of BP. BP must be laughing their ass off. Like Wall Street's laughing their ass off. Like the drug industry's laughing their ass off. Oh yeah, don't hurt us, Obama. Oh, did you yell at us again? Oh, get a load of this punk. Step aside. Look, now, you're going to do him a huge favor anyway. Right now, the guy, Salazar, who's in charge of the Interior Department, it's his, department that's responsible here. He's saying that they might push BP out. Look, they want you to push him out anyway. You don't get it. God, these guys. BP is stalling. They don't have an idea of how to clean it up. They don't want to spend the money to clean it up. They just want to keep it, have it spill and spill and spill until the government says, all right, step aside, let me take care of this. And then the government has to spend the money, and then BP will go to court and go, oh, I would have had it, man. I was this close to stopping the oil spill. But then they stepped in and, I said I'd pay more than $75 million before, but you know what? Now the government did all these things afterwards, so I don't owe you the money that I said I owed you. You think they won't do that? I'll give you a 100% guarantee they'll do that. Right now, Salazar and the other morons in the Obama administration are saying, no, they promised us. Yeah, they promised you. They're going to go back in court and say they had a chance to pass a bill that would remove our $75 million caps and damages. They didn't do it. So I guess it was the intent of Congress not to charge us more than $75 million. If you think they're not going to say that in court later, then either you don't know a damn thing or you just want to take BP's money and you want to take all the oil companies' monies and pretend you don't know anything. Look, so the quicker I know it sucks to step in there and give BP this excuse. I get that. But the quicker you step in, the more likely we are to fix this at some point because BP has no intention of fixing it. And they have no intention of eventually paying all that they owe. So get real and get there quickly. Get to it already. Jesus, man. So now Sarah Palin comes in and even though she's clown of all clowns, and she's going to say it in her usually comical way, her point here is actually not that bad. Let's go to clip number 3.
How do you think the Obama administration has handled the oil spill so far?
Well, I think that there is perhaps a hesitancy to, I don't really know how to put this, Chris, except to say that the oil companies who have so supported President Obama in his campaign and are supportive of him now, I don't know why the question isn't asked by the mainstream media and by others if there's any connection with the contributions made to President Obama and his administration and the support by the oil companies to the administration. If there's any connection there to President Obama taking so doggone long to get in there, to dive in there and grasp the complexity and the potential tragedy that we are seeing here in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, if this was President Bush, or if this were a Republican in office who hadn't received as much support even as President Obama has from BP and other oil companies, you know the mainstream media would be all over his case in terms of asking questions why the administration didn't get in there, didn't get in there and make sure that the regulatory agencies were doing what they were doing with the oversight to make sure that things like this don't happen.
Look, she's right. You know, she's wildly disingenuous. If she was in government, they wouldn't do anything to hold BP accountable. We know they take more money, and we know through their track records, okay? But that doesn't mean she's not right about how the press should be all over Obama. They should be. And you know what? I don't even think she's that wrong that the press would have been more all over Bush than they are about Obama. There's still this feeling in the press of, well, Obama's a good guy and he's a smart guy, so he must have our best interests in mind. Look, I don't think he's not stepping in because BP gave him a lot of money. But is he too soft in general? Hell yes. It wasn't his fault. We've got over this 100 times. It was BP's fault, Halliburton's fault, Transocean's fault. But at this point, you got to step in. Enough is enough. And regulate for the American people so you can stop the damn oil spill. It's a gusher. And I don't want anybody to get me wrong. The Republican Party, did they take more from BP than the Democrats? Of course! Over the last 20 years, the contributions of BP has gone 71% to Republicans, 29% to Democrats. And even now, with the Democrats overwhelmingly in power, the Republicans still get the lion's share. Between 60 to 56% go to the Republicans, even though they're out of power. So the Republicans and Sarah Palin live in a giant glass house. But nonetheless, the press should get on this because Obama's not handling it right here. Get tougher, man. Get tougher. We're in trouble, guys. He's just not tough enough. I know people are going to hate hearing that, but I really think that's the reality. All right, I'll lighten your mood when we come back with a Republican sex scandal. Young Turks.
Oh my gosh.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur. We are ready to rock. Okay, we are going to talk more financial reform in this hour. No, I'm kidding. Look, I go on and on. I'll probably keep going on and on. I'm probably going to lie to you when I say I'm going to motor it down a little bit. But I wanted what we did in the first segment today to explain all the different loopholes in the bill. And then, okay, I got it. It sucks, right? So I'll do less going forward because, you get that it sucks. Now the next step is, what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And Anna, my understanding is we're going to go kick some ass.
We are, June 7th, right?
Totally.
Okay. By the way, we have a petition with Bold Progressives, and I included a link to that petition on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, twitter.com/TheYoungTurks. Check it out, sign the petition. It's a good idea.
Awesome. Go forward. All right. So now let's get to goofy stuff. That's fun.
Yes, let's do it. So Venus Williams was wearing a questionable outfit during the French Open. Okay?
Unquestionably. Okay, I saw it, and it was unquestionably questionable. Okay. Now, normally, I'm not one to be, conservative when it comes to, women's outfits. Mm-hmm. The bolder, the better. Okay. And this one is bold. I'm not against it. It's just, if I was her parents, I might be against it.
Right. Well, she wears these flesh-colored Daisy Duke shorts under her tennis outfits. So,
bold.
Okay, so right there, it looks like it's her bare ass, but it's really not. She's wearing these nude-colored shorts.
Right. Let me explain something to you. It's her bare ass. Okay. Now, yes, she does have the shorts on, right? But they're like practically see-through. I mean, I think I could see her cooch there.
No, they're not see-through.
No, I can't see. But
They
it
don't-
looks like it.
Look, it's because she's sweating, so you can see sweat marks.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But I don't understand why she decided to wear that color, because it does look like she's nude under there, but she's not.
Come on, dude. Okay, I know she's not nude, but I mean that's just the same thing, isn't it? I mean,
you know what? Go, girl.
Okay, no. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling her to stop, girl. Okay. Look, in fact, it was the first time I ever got turned on by a Williams. I'm not a big fan of Serena and Venus in the looks department. Great tennis players, but I looked at that ass and I was like, okay, we're having a conversation. What am I going to do?
That is a tight ass.
That's a toit like a tiger. Okay, so.
But I love that she does it, because obviously people are going to be talking about it. Obviously people are going to think that she's nude. But she doesn't care. She's like, I'm gonna pull out the skin color Daisy Dukes anyway.
All right, look, I'm not opposed from my perspective, but I can see how others might be opposed when it appears that she doesn't have much going on underneath her skirt. Okay, I mean, she got a lot going on underneath her skirt. She's just not hiding it very well. Man, that ass, you could bounce a nickel off of it and come back in the eye and poke you out.
By the way, these tennis outfits are starting to look more and more like skating outfits. Like, look at the elaborate detailing on that tennis outfit. Like, what happened to a simple... That totally
in fact, it looks like lingerie.
It does look like lingerie. That looks like a corset.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, get it. What am I going to do? One day she's just going to show up naked. She's going to be like, what happened? What do you mean? What? All right. Anyway, God bless. Who does it hurt? What about the children? There were probably children in the crowd. They saw an ass. Okay, all right. Okay, what's next?
Okay, Simon Monjack, the husband of the late Brittany Murphy, was found dead in his Hollywood Hills home on Sunday night.
This is just nothing but a super strange story. How is this possible? If Monk has taught me anything, it's that there are no such things as coincidences. So as soon as I saw that Brittany Murphy's husband had also died, I was like, internal. There's something up here, man. There's something up. Something weird. Now, this might be one of those rare coincidences, but two people who are ranged from young to relatively young, who both die so close to one another that were married to one another, I mean, maybe the answer is as simple as they're both taking too many drugs, That's entirely possible.
Yeah, authorities say that they're investigating it, and prescription drugs might have played a role. But what's interesting is his mother came forward. Her name is Linda Monjack. She came forward and she says that he suffered a slight heart attack prior to Brittany Murphy's death. So she says that he could have died from a heart attack, and basically trying to take attention away from the possibility of prescription drugs playing a role.
Right. Here's my thought on it. If I was the cops, I wouldn't assume anything, right? I would assume, look, probably what it looks like is what happened. But nonetheless, I'd look to see who's got insurance on both of them. Okay. I just cover my bases.
Oh, that's where you're going.
No. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that both of them would die so close to one another.
Yeah, but he was totally heartbroken, and he was in a really bad
I know.
state after
well,
her
now
death.
you know it's not him. People were getting on him saying like, oh yeah, maybe he wanted Brittany's money, la la la. Well, it wasn't him, right? So I just look at who's next on the insurance list. Okay, look, it's crazy. I'm doing crazy talk, okay?
Yeah, some would call it speculation.
Speculation. But if I was the cops, I'd do a little due diligence. That's all I'm saying. All right, what's next?
Okay.
But by the way, if it turns out anything happened, I will later demand credit. Okay, just so you know.
Okay.
Okay.
We're looking forward to that.
Okay. All right.
The former Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, is in a lot of trouble because she asked a journalist who posed as a businessman for £500,000 in order to have access to her ex-husband.
That put her in trouble. Okay. And God, that's so sad in so many ways.
That is sad in so many ways. And look, she's gone on the record to talk about how her and her ex-husband are best friends, and they're the, closest ex-couple ever, whatever. So it's interesting that she would just sell him out like that. And she claims that he knew nothing about it, but it sounds kind of fishy. I think he did know about it.
Well, let's go to the videotape, and then let's see if we can discern.
She's devastated and regrets any embarrassment she's caused after being filmed trying to sell access to her former husband. A British tabloid secretly filmed Sarah Ferguson clinching an $850,000 deal to introduce a reporter to Prince Andrew.
£500,000 when you can, to me, open doors.
New Prince Andrew?
Yeah.
Is that a deal?
Yeah.
On the tape, Fergie makes it clear Prince Andrew knew nothing of the deal and never accepts money for anything.
For anything.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that's true because, you know, it seemed that in some situations she said, oh, no, he knows what's going on and he knows that if you give me $500,000 that he'll talk to you. Now, afterwards they say, hell no, he doesn't know a damn thing. He says that, she says that, and she feels terrible about it. I don't really know either way. I mean, without enough information, I'm going to pardon him, right? But she's guilty as can possibly be.
Right.
And look, keep it real. You know, in the real world, apparently this is how stuff gets done. You know, these guys are very, very important people. He has a important role in the British government, other than being, you know, the second son of the Queen. And contacts with him are very valuable. I don't know if this is the first time that she got, you know, this kind of proposition. I don't know how she knew how to handle a proposition like that. I don't know if they get proposition like that all the time. You know, so it's a really interesting view into how things work. On the other hand, you know, she's got a lot of financial trouble. £500,000 is a lot of money.
Right.
For a how do you do? I mean, like
I
can't blame her for getting tempted. Like, okay, you know, go say hi to the guy. What's it going to do? Kill you? Have lunch. Meanwhile, I walk away with over $800,000. Seems like everybody's a winner. Like, if he's giving deals and saying, okay, I'm going to make sure the British government, etc. Look, he can't do it either way. Don't get me wrong, okay? But I see why they're tempted.
Of course, yeah, especially if she's in financial difficulty.
Yeah.
Why not? If you have that resource, why not use it?
Because it's terribly unethical.
Of course it's unethical, but come on, do you think that the average person thinks about ethics when it comes to that amount of money? Of course not.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. And look, we think, oh my God, she was a duchess or whatever the English people like to call these folks.
What does a duchess do, by the way?
Not a damn thing. Okay, so she was married to this prince. So she must be rich, but not necessarily. Why? Why is she rich? And apparently she's not. And it's because, of course, they spent too much money too. They were going to have a lavish birthday celebration for her, but because of her financial troubles, they had to scale it down a little bit. Of course! The rest of us who were never that rich in the first place, we don't have lavish birthday celebrations costing hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
Okay? That way, we don't have to take an $800,000 bribe to pay for it. Think about it. Okay? I think that would have been the better way to go.
Right.
All right. No, guilty. Totally guilty. Sorry, Fergie. All right.
Okay, the Australian government is in the news again because they have done something shady to the founder of Wikileaks.
This is super shady.
Yeah, this is a super shady story. Now, Wikileaks is a whistleblower website, okay? And the creator, his name is Julian Assange. As soon as he traveled to Melbourne, officials took his passport away. And the immigration officials in Australia claimed that they took his passport away because it looked worn.
I mean, you want to talk about lame excuses? Okay, that's awesome. They're like, yeah, you know, your passport looks a little old. We're going to confiscate that. Okay, what do you mean you're going to confiscate? What do you care how old my passport looks? Look, it could be that you're 89 years old, you haven't changed the passport in 123 years, and it's like falling apart at the seams. They're like, hey, dude, get a new one, right? This ain't got nothing to do with that. WikiLeaks is the people who leaked that Apache helicopter video in Iraq where, you know, the U.S. troops were firing on innocent civilians in Iraq. Now, the Australian government also with the U.S. government in terms of the invasion of Iraq. But more importantly, and specifically for Australia,
right.
WikiLeaks also leaked information on the new obscenity laws in Australia.
Right. So there are a list of websites that Australian officials plan to ban, and they claim that all of these websites have child pornography, and that's why they want to ban it. Well, WikiLeaks actually posted all of the websites that they plan on banning, and many of them had nothing to do with child pornography at all.
Right, so that put the Australian government in trouble. And then, so strike back number one was they then put WikiLeaks on the list. Oh, yeah? You're going to out us for porn? We think you're porn. Okay, so they put WikiLeaks on the ban list.
Right.
Absurd, right? And now they take the guy's passport away.
Right.
And there's a very important reason why they did that.
Right. The reason why they took his passport away is because in order to secure secrecy and in order to not get caught leaking all of this information, he has to travel from one country to another. He actually doesn't have a permanent residence, okay? He doesn't have an official place where he goes home to. He's constantly traveling. Now that he's stuck in Melbourne and he's not able to leave Australia, that puts a huge damper on WikiLeaks.
Yes, that way they can track him better.
Right.
And that's the whole point of taking the passport. Oh, your passport was a little old. Not like out of date. It looked a little tattered. The worst, the most weak sauce excuse I have ever heard in my life. So the Australian government is up to so many fishy things. I don't know why the good people of Australia deal with this nonsense.
I know, and I'm surprised that the Australian government is so conservative. I think it's so random because I never thought of Australia that way, but...
Yeah, I didn't know, but now I know, okay? Note to self, don't go to Australia with a tattered passport or with any kind of porn whatsoever, because we did the story last week where they're going to rifle through all your porn.
Right.
They're conservatives and pervy wankers, which, come to think of it, is exactly like America.
Right, that's true.
Right. WikiLeaks were 1,000,000% behind you. We're on their side. And this is how they try to kill journalism. Don't let them do it, okay? Fight the power. Fight the Aussie power. All right, we'll be back.